Hi, I'm Julia, and as you can see by the title, I'm going to be talking about people who are overweight. And there was once a video titled Dear Fat People, and I decided to title this Dear Skinny People as just a perspective to people who have never been overweight. Just how many factors go into it and how we can have more compassion. And if you really do care about people overweight, digging at them is not going to help. So I'm just going to go into some factors that I've come up with, and then I'm sure that you may have heard of, but some that you may have not. Maybe I never really thought about that. And some of these are interesting. So I have about 5 or 6. And before I go into these factors, I want to preface that not every single person who's overweight has gone through this or has had these factors that made them fat. Some people, everyone experiences different things, and I'm not saying that because people go through this, they have to be fat or that there's no solution. I'm not saying, so there's our excuse. I'm just saying that there are excuses or factors that go into being overweight, and this is how we can have more compassion. This is not to say that you're stuck and that you can't lose weight. This is just a preface, there's people out there who are saying, this is just a bunch of bullshit, all excuses. Just trying to implement and help people who may have not thought of these perspectives. How we can have more compassion for people and maybe help them, because bullying is actually doing the reverse and keeping people in a cycle. So a few of these topics kind of overlap each other, and I do get pretty scientific about some of them. So I don't want to bore you, but there will be some actually intriguing scientific facts. So really quickly, I'm just going to go over an overview of the topics so you don't get bored with the first long one. So I'm going to be talking about early childhood environment, our taste palette, mothers breastfeeding in the womb, mental health, trauma, physical pain, and medical conditions and medications. So there's 7 topics. And then at the end, I'll be talking about the cycle of and being stuck. I'm going to start from the beginning. Developmentally, as children, we are shaped very much by our caretakers in many different areas in life. And this is including our preferences for food and taste and just control in general. Developmentally, as children, how our taste palette is formed. So I'm going to give some scientific details to back this up. Our palate for preferred taste is made up from both biological and environmental aspects. Preference actually starts in the womb, in the amniotic fluid. So both amniotic fluid and breastfeeding contain molecules derived from the mother's diet. So if mothers eat fruit and vegetables, breastfed infants will be exposed to these dietary choices by experiencing the flavors in the mother's milk and also in utero. And then I have a quote here. Taste preferences have a strong innate component. These early experiences set the stage for later food choices and are important in establishing lifelong food habits. So this can influence the likes and dislikes of certain foods for malleable children. If a child is being fed lots of carby and sugary foods in prenatal and breastfeeding, they'll more likely reject healthier options as they grow. Environmentally, after birth, if the parent is not providing healthy options, this can shape their preferences on top of that. So not just in utero and breastfeeding, but also when they're grown enough to eat, when they're like 3, is that when they start? 2, if the parents are not providing healthier options, that also influences their preference for food. So maybe you were the last born, mom didn't pack your lunch, maybe you had free access to the pantry, you're gonna go crazy as a kid, no self-control, you're going for all the sugary things, you really dislike, healthier options. So my point being for this first topic is this makes it a lot harder for an adult to break the habit of consuming these types of food. Again, I want to stop and say It is not impossible to change, but this is just one factor to give a perspective that it may be more difficult for someone with a certain food palette to stay thin compared to someone who has been brought up with super healthy parents, super healthy food options, taught how to cook this or that, had more guidance. It is more natural to those people to pick healthier food choices and to actually like them better. Therefore, less of a challenge for them to maintain their thinness. And sometimes, and this is not to say this cannot be changed if the person is dedicated to doing so, but just providing insight to those that this is one of the many possible factors heavier people exist. So that is my point number one. And this kind of is like a little piggybacking off of it, lack of supervision, like I said, unlimited access to all kinds of food. Children can easily overconsume and do not learn an appropriate amount of food, and therefore this learned food habit into adulthood. And this also goes into parents failing to role model or teach proper exercise, moving your body, and the importance of it. Maybe you had a very sedentary lifestyle as a child. Again, you can change this as an adult. We all have free will. Just saying, it may be a little harder for others in adulthood than it was for some who grew up with parents who were more intrusive in their lives in that way. Next factor is going to be a big one: mental health. So, in particular, anxiety disorders and depression. And why those, It's a well-known phenomenon that mental health disorders leads to stress, and stress to weight gain. So, stress comes from individuals dealing with those disorders. Depression, high blood pressure, insomnia, heart disease, anxiety, and obesity are all linked to untreated chronic stress. And weight gain can be used to cope with the stress as well. So here's some scientific background to this. You guys know, a lot of people know about the stress hormone called cortisol. So unhealthy cravings could be due to an increase in the stress hormone cortisol and the hunger hormone ghrelin, which stimulate appetite and promote the intake of fat and sugar or carbohydrates. So there you are, instinctively reaching for pizza, burgers, or mac and cheese. You may find you enjoy it. That was a quote. So there is literally a hormone in the body that rises when stress levels are too high. And a short-term fix is certain foods that most of us call comfort foods. So people are literally have so much stress that they are using food to cope, and their body is sending messages to eat these certain foods. Again, and there's going to be people watching this rolling their eyes thinking to themselves, how I'm coming up with excuses for fat people. But the reality is there are reasons or excuses for weight gain. I don't think anyone chooses to be fat. It happens, and I'm providing the reasons why. So to conclude this section, we can have more compassion for overweight individuals as they may be experiencing severe mental health disorders that are highly stressful in their day-to-day lives, and hard to deal with in society and life in general. The next topic I'll be talking about is trauma. Day-to-day life is already hard, but some people have experienced traumatic events. Not to say someone's life is harder than the others, but some people do have bad pasts. Bad things have happened to them, on top of life being difficult. So perhaps both parents died in a car crash recently. You've been dealing with a verbally or physically abusive partner. You witnessed a murder. You were sexually abused. You were bullied, and you remain in isolation. There are many instances that can be considered traumatic. And some people have good support and can heal in a healthy manner, or they were taught how to heal. And some people don't have support systems. And people use unhealthy coping mechanisms to self-medicate for that, such as alcohol, gambling, drugs, sex. And others use food. That is just their preference. That is just their fix. And unfortunately, the food user can result in massive weight gain. Food is just another fix to ease human pain. But it does make me think, although drug abusers, alcoholics, gamblers, and sex addicts have their fair share of shame, I can't help but wonder if their shame would be even worse if every time they used, they gained weight like those use food to cope. Like I think people who are fatter, you perceived more. With an alcoholic, you may not be able to tell unless, you really know them. I mean, sometimes you can tell drug users like in their face, but it really is a lot of the time coming down to people being vain about appearances and not what's on the inside. Again, this factor is to point out how everyone struggles from time to time, and some people's coping mechanisms you can see well, others you cannot, and some people struggle in different ways than others, and you don't know everything that someone's gone through. Therefore, we can practice more compassion and less hate for individuals struggling with their weight. People really are struggling. The next topic is physical pain. Eating, gaining weight, what does this have to do with physical pain? Well, eating actually can alleviate pain for some people. Personal example here, I have TMJD, so my jaw clicks and it comes out of its socket and I get severe jaw pain. I grind my teeth at night, and I say that's due to stress, so it's kind of like this cycle, which I'll get into at the very end, but I get severe jaw pain, I get ear pain, I get behind my eye pain, I get headache pain, neck pain. I feel like I'm in pain 80% of the day. And I swear to you, when I eat food, even just sometimes sweets a lot, I feel relieved, the pain goes away for a little bit. Might be a poor excuse for some people, but when you go through chronic pain and food sometimes helps. Just saying. People reach for what helps them, Next topic, medical conditions. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I just want to do a quick overview to, give some representation for everyone who's overweight most reasons that I can think of. Endocrine disorders. Really quickly, I want to go over the endocrine systems in the human body which produce hormones. So many people I've been hearing, especially on social media, talk about PCOS and how this syndrome causes weight gain and it's hard for people to lose weight. So causes weight gain due to insulin resistance and high levels of androgen. And another disorder, endocrine disorder, that causes weight gain is hypothyroidism. It's another big one. When your thyroid gland doesn't produce enough hormones to meet your body's needs. And then the last medical condition is binge eating disorder. Binge eating disorder is a condition in which people feel out of control of their eating and consume an objectively large amount of food in one sitting, even to the point where they feel out of control and they're full and they keep eating. So another perspective to show you that you may see someone walking down the street or online and you may feel some type of, I don't know why some people feel like hate in their heart or disgust or feel the need to hurt these people's feelings. You can just maybe think maybe they have a disorder. Maybe they have PCOS. Literally in their body, a hormone doesn't work right. I think it's cysts. They have cysts on their ovaries, I believe. Okay, next, last factor, and then I'll be tying it all together. Medications. So antidepressants, popular ones such as Paxil, Zoloft, and many more, cause weight gain. There's science behind this, such as changes in metabolism and other scientific reasons that I'll not be getting into for the sake of time and boredom. But also certain blood sugar and pressure medications, such as glipizide. So now let's think, wow, I have depression and anxiety, which causes me stress. and I'm stressed about being stressed, and my cortisol levels rise, making my cravings for sugary and carby food more intense, on top of my medication that help with my anxiety or my pain, to alleviate such symptoms, which is actually a symptom of weight gain. This is to show how complicated weight gain and obesity can be. There are many factors upon factors upon factors for how a person can become fat, and that is why I made this video. Because some people, it is not clearly understood how someone can look so much different than them. I am this small frame. I don't understand how you could get that big. How could they let themselves get that big? And it's easy to judge when you are not in their shoes and when you just don't think about it long enough or hear different perspectives. So I am here to try and branch an understanding to someone different than yourself. Let's tie all this together and think of a situation for this might be for someone. I grew up with a not very stable mom. She didn't guide me. She didn't show me how to exercise. She left me to my own devices. I was able to grab any snacks. I didn't have much nutrition. I have depression and anxiety, which causes me more stress. And this stress rises my cortisol levels, and it making my cravings for sugary and carby food more intense. On top of that, my medication for my mental health also has a symptom of weight gain. And I have physical pain from all of my stress, or I have physical pain from whatever, my knee pain, my back pain. And I just had a traumatic event. My boyfriend just died. Like, we don't know what's going on in people's lives, but this is just to show like how many different factors can go into weight gain, and just for people struggling, and you know, they just have different vices. Being stuck is a real thing. You obsess about how you're fat, you go on diets, then you mess up a day, and then you, oh no, I messed up a day, and now 3 more days doing bad. And there is discipline does come into this. I'm just saying how being human, we make mistakes, and it's not that fat people aren't trying. So please realize that a lot of, I'm not speaking for all fat people, but I do speak for a lot when I say that it is tough being fat. It is not fun being fat, physically or mentally or socially. And most of us do not want to be fat, and many of us do try to fix it. And it is a hard process, and it is a defeating process, and we can fall back into the cycle of all of these factors, and the fat cycle of trying, failing, shame, guilt, life, stress in general, coming home, and just being down. So before you judge, maybe just think of how hard it is for them. And I'm going to end on, if you really do want to spark change, it is not through bullying or harassing fat people online. It is through love and support. Tearing people down will only make things worse for them. And if they're happy fat people online who are enjoying their lives, who are doing vlogs, who are showing hauls of trying clothes, who are eating food, let them. Tearing someone else down is just not the right thing to do. The world is really hard enough, and we need to start lifting up all humans, even the ones that look different than you. And if you don't relate to them on a personal level, maybe this video helped you to understand more on an intellectual level. And bless you all, and I hope that you learned something. Thank you for watching, and spread love and compassion to others.